First story. Is my concern about my wife's relationship with a coworker reasonable, or am I being insecure? I feel my wife crossed boundaries with a coworker, and I want to know if I'm addressing them the right way. The below is long, but I wrote it thinking it could help me get my point across clearly. I want to know if it sounds like I'm being too insecure. We've argued about this person before, and she's told me I have no reason not to trust her. But I've had this burning gut feeling for years. I think I've finally been able to organize my thoughts, but I want to know if I seem reasonable. I've tried to figure out where my trust issues stem from and the ways I've tried to verbalize it. I know I haven't said things the right way. I've said things like, you haven't shown me specifics on why I can trust you, or I haven't seen that you can identify where the line is. I know those statements are vague and unfair. The truth is, I feel like boundaries were crossed. I've been understanding of your work relationship with your friend Jimmer, but I've made clear I'm not comfortable with the relationship, including, we know he's cheated on his wife with a married coworker. We know they did it in a friend's office at work. My intro to him was when I was out of town and he took you, as a student teacher, 15 years his junior, out for drinks then messaged you after late that night. He gives you a birthday card with sappy Neil Young lyrics, 24, and so much more. You've never introduced us, and it's been a decade now. Your boss asked you to keep your distance from him when you transferred back to workplace. I feel that you should have recognized that this is a relationship that should be kept professional. Regardless, we've fought about it. You've brushed off my discomfort and built a deeper connection. You started sending him songs and shows you like. You started sharing songs of the day with each other. You shared shows you liked so you can discuss together. You started playing a daily game to share your scores first thing when you wake up every morning. Oh, one of those times, you were texting him your score at 3 a.m. Your first thought every day was to text Jimmer. You listen to music you like and were thinking of Jimmer. You watch a show you like and want to discuss with Jimmer. It's more mental energy than I think either of us have invested in any of our friends. I wouldn't text a married woman at 3 a.m. talking about one of those shows. He brought up how he loves all the boobs in it. You laughed it off, and he redirected back to it asking if he's seen boobs in the first few episodes. He's testing whether he can push the boundary a little bit more. I think you know that you were disregarding my boundaries. You've said if I tell you about a text activity with a group and he's in it, I know I emphasize others and put him last. I probably do this to avoid a fight. I think that shows that you know my boundary is there, yet you're nurturing this. I would say, you two are made for each other. Seems like I am a third wheel in your relationship. In fact, you have told me I have nothing to worry about and should trust you, but here you are having an emotional affair with him. The only thing I don't know is if he has fucked you. You'll deny it, but is it really me being insecure when all the signs point to you having an affair with him? Then go over what you laid out here. Then I would say, yeah, I am not second to any man in a relationship, nor should I feel second. I should not be called insecure in a relationship when you are the one causing the insecurities by allowing another man into our marriage. So you can continue your affair and we can move towards divorce, or you can cut him out permanently and you can focus on our marriage and fixing what you have broken now. And if you mourn what you had with him, we are over. Sometimes I'm willing to end it in order to save it. Second story. What should I do in this situation? Long story short, I was involved with a co-worker married man for a year who was separated from his wife. He had secretly saved up money to leave the household for months, years before finally leaving and meeting me. When we first started talking we were friends, but that evolved quickly into more. I was reluctant given the situation, but he had contended that they were in the middle of dividing assets and divorce proceedings were imminent. After that he was going to be moving out of the state. I normally would never have gotten involved with anyone who was married, but this situation felt slightly different considering they were living apart in separate places and tying up loose ends to formally divorce. This was a very close connection that occurred between us with a lot of chemistry. We'd talk for hours but didn't see each other often since we did not live close. He confessed that he never met anyone like me before. He was never able to talk to anyone the way he could talk with me. Nothing would ever be the same after meeting me, and that he wanted to marry me. After a while of talking and growing close for months, he had informed me that his wife had reached out asking to give the marriage another shot, citing issues with the kids, and he needed to think about it. I could tell the decision to go back was hard for him, as it took him weeks to formally make his decision, or at least to tell me. I was crestfallen when he finally told me what was going to happen, but I knew deep down this was a possibility all along. The moment he decided to formally give the marriage another shot, citing issues with children, I cut all contact that was anything more than co-workers. Despite his efforts, for several months on and off, he reached out to me secretly to say he missed me so much after returning to the house. He shared with his wife under the pretenses of giving things another shot. He tried to make plans to visit me in person months after he returned to her, which I told him was not a good idea. He tried getting my attention at work in playful, sometimes flirty ways, but I did not reciprocate his advances or desire to reconnect because the situation was different now, and I was not going to get involved in this any longer, especially after he made the decision to go back. One of the times he spoke to me, he asked if I would ever talk to him again, and I said there wasn't any reason outside of work, to which he seemed very sad by. He admitted it was selfish, but he just wanted to hear from me sometimes still. The very last time we reached out was a little over a month ago, and I told him somewhat harshly to leave me alone, that there was no longer any room for me in this dynamic, and that he should not be trying to keep me around, as it unfair to his wife and myself. I quite literally told him that he cannot have me and her. That was about a month ago. A month later, I began noticing some of his work tasks changing that had previously required us to work together. When I asked him about it, he just said the manager just put him on something else. Okay. Then I started noticing him deleting a lot of the private messages to me in our corporate chat. I asked him what was up with that, and he told me that he told her everything about us. Obviously, he told her an abbreviated version of everything, otherwise he would not have been compelled to clean up his conversations with me. Most of our conversations outside of work before occurred on a chat platform, with convos that had long been deleted before he went back to the relationship, so all she really can see is the work chat history, which shows a long log of his deleted messages, and what's left really shows him as the one who has primarily reached out and tried to reconnect, even after moving back. There's one conversation where I flat out said that him visiting was not a good idea. He deleted his replies, but I won't delete or modify what I said. If she sees it, she should know he was attempting to see me in person after he moved back. Honestly, a part of me started to even resent him a bit after all of this, including his attempts to reach out to me, because not only was he devaluing his wife and the fresh start, but he was also devaluing me. It was just a bad, selfish look all around, and I was becoming increasingly fed up with it. So I'm not sure what to do. I regret getting involved in something that was such a waste of time and energy. I feel awful for her and resent him for being dishonest with her, trying to keep me around and not telling her the truth right when he decided to go back to the marriage. Instead, he went back and secretly tried to keep in contact with me and maintain contact with both of us. He told me he loved both of us. When he finally came clean, he likely told her he couldn't keep it to himself because he felt guilty. I feel awful for her because she's clearly not being told the whole truth, and my firm disinterest in carrying on a relationship clearly was the catalyst which caused him to fold and tell her about me, not his desire to truly start anew and work on the marriage. I'm not sure what she'll do or how she'll feel about us working together, especially since he kept this from her for so long. Is this just happily ever after from here? He clearly demonstrated that he was able to go back to the marriage while working with someone he still had feelings for, tried talking to and keeping it a secret. I feel like it would have been so much better if he told her from the very beginning several months ago before returning to the marriage. It still would have been a gut punch for her, I'm sure, but there wouldn't have been this long-standing deception on his part. I'm sure he's framing everything like he's finally telling her because he cares about her so much and the guilt of keeping it from her is too much. Not that he's finally telling her because he was no longer able to maintain a friendship ego boost relationship with someone who he had an affair with, likely requiring him to sit with the consequences of his actions. Very childish. What should I do now? What would you do if this was your husband? I want to reach out to him to understand more of what has been revealed since we do work together and this may affect work. But I've been blocked on everything from his end. As if I was the one who needed to be prevented from reaching out. And I have no way of reaching out to see exactly what was said, etc. I could reach out via corporate chat, but I'd prefer not to. I also feel like the fresh start is ruined now because of this added deception. I've tried to be as respectful of their decision as I could and stay out of this situation once he decided to go back and try things again. But I feel like his conduct just made a messy situation so much messier. He said if it wasn't for the kids he wouldn't have gone back. That could be a lie, but that coupled with the many attempts to keep me in his life sometimes makes me think it was genuine feelings. He also did not live locally, and 98% of our interactions were by phone, so it wasn't like sweet talk would have gotten him anything physical in a moment. He would always be genuinely excited to talk with me. It was almost a childlike excitement, and those talks lasted hours in the blink of an eye. It was definitely a different connection, and it broke my heart to feel like I lost it and to keep pushing it away, but I had no other choice. I sometimes worry part of me will love him forever because he didn't deserve it. I just wish he did that earlier and didn't drag it out and try to keep me in his life selfishly for several months before that. I also felt that blocking was harsh because I never reached out to him. It was always him reaching out to me, but maybe it helps him avoid reaching out to me. Either way, I'm not losing sleep over being blocked. If he moves on, great for him. I've been NC and I don't plan on changing that. Yeah, I don't plan on breaking NC. It's just a knee-jerk reaction from him saying he missed me was sad. I said I'd never talk to him again outside of work only a month ago to blocked on everything and stonewalled. It doesn't matter either way, but I just never saw that level of effort from him to wall me off. If it results in them working things out, I have no issues with that or desire to contact him. Third story. Limerence with my new partner after my ex-husband's affair. Help. About 2 years ago, I 33F, caught my husband, 30M cheating on me with my ex-best friend 25F. I could go into many stories about how that fundamentally changed me and fucked me up for the following 2 years, but here on this thread, you all understand it all too well. What I want to talk about today is limerence. About 8 months after my separation, I was intimate with someone. 4 months from there I was in a relationship with that same person. In the beginning, I had feelings of serious infatuation. It's now been 1 year and a few months since I have been dating this man, and the limerence is fading. To be clear, I love this man and think he's one of the best people I have met in my lifetime. After my separation, the only thing that was important to me was to heal and to find someone that was kind. My new partner is this, kind and a stand-up man. But, since I've continued my healing journey, I've discovered that isn't the only thing that is important to me. I am a businesswoman and do very well for myself. I'm 33 and have been going back and forth on whether I want children. As many of my friends continue to get married and have children, I start to have feelings of regret. My new partner does not have an interest in marriage, which I'm okay with, but also does not want children because they are too expensive. At first, what he did for a living and what he brought to the table didn't bother me. But as time had passed and I've begun to heal, I realize it does bother me. For the last 1.5 years I have lived on my own. but he spends most of his time at my place and has never contributed to the grocery bills or helping. My error in all of this was to remain silent until it bothered me. Now I feel like I'm teaching a 37-year-old man how to cook and clean and want to contribute without me having to ask. Traveling is also important to me. Every year I take a trip with my mom. I thought that would suffice because my partner afford to go on a trip, but it makes me realize I do want a partner I can travel with. Having to foot the bills for last 1.5 years has caused me to harbor resentment, something I never thought I would say as a non-materialistic woman. I'm starting to realize I want someone who can bring to the table what I offer. But it breaks my heart because I honestly fell in love with this man. I feel like I know what the answer is, but would really appreciate some advice or words of encouragement. I know I need to have a serious conversation with him about these issues and how I see them becoming nothing but bigger as time marches on. It's time to, at the very least, not have him at my place all the time and stop footing 100% of our joint costs, food, travel, etc. I need space and resentments are building. First I need to figure out what future I want. Can he fit into it? Will I feel like I've progressing together? Does he offer enough me emotional support? Help with the mental labor of life? It's a predicament to have a hard conversation about resentments while trying to preserve his masculinity. It's not fun. Isn't it better to be honest though? Wouldn't I want to hear honesty from the person I love? A simple statement of I'm starting to feel resentful of doing all that I do for you without any reciprocation appreciation. Or we feel unbalanced to me and it's making me feel resentful, frustrated. It's not necessarily the money but the lack of offer to assist in any way. Does he clean up? Check your tire pressure? Notice your wipers need to be replaced? Take out the trash? My therapist reminded me what I'm going through. In many cases relationships after divorce are, invertedly, orchestrated out of need. We don't realize we need companionship, support, etc. Especially after we have been in a long-term relationship. It is almost like muscle memory. And it is our first instinct to seek relationship intimacy. We also don't realize that trauma, hurt, damage that we suffered after having been in an abusive marriage takes a while to heal from. We're in most cases in a sort of emotional tunnel vision, where we are processing a lot of WTF just happened in the background, while we're at the same time attending our jobs, living our everyday life, and among those things, being in a relationship. But sometimes, when we heal, our energy sort of comes back, and we start to feel more like ourselves, or more like our authentic self feels safer to return and realize. It feels like we were in a bit of a coma or disassociated state for a while, and now we just woke up. And you realize a lot of things that served you during the survival healing phase either no longer have a purpose, they are constraining you, or right out they are not what you wanted even though you needed them back then. It's okay for you to feel safe and healed enough to be certain of what your needs, wants, and expectations are for your next chapter. And if the person you are with does not fit in that vision, then it is time to recognize that the relationship may have to end, in a respectful and tactful way. Obviously, part of the healing also involves us realizing that we should strive to allow things into our life out of want, not need, so that we can be in healthy relationships moving forward. And a healthy version of us is the one who can end any relationship, respectfully, when it is hindering our growth or it presents an incompatible vision with ours, and we don't have to subsume ourselves moving forward. That is why I recommend to take some time off from dating after a divorce, in order to make sure we don't end up using other people as therapy, and more importantly, so that we don't inadvertently constrain our healing process journey to meet a new partner's expectations when they are incompatible with our own core goals. It's good to take some time and space to be truly free to heal in whatever form, shape and fashion is supposed to take, to fully reconnect with ourselves, and to be a bit selfish with our own energy and time. Also, it is okay to love someone without being in love with them. Romantic feelings can fade, especially in a nascent relationship. That is what dating is about, to find out if you're ultimately compatible and in a non-forced sync. If things have to be forced, then it is not to be. Out of nobody's fault. Not only do I made 30 times as much money as him, but he has debt and no home or reliable vehicle. I don't know if I want children for sure, but I don't want to close that door. Please tell me it is, even if I am in the wrong.